When you need to shade large areas, the shading will inevitably need to be carried out in sections, and that presents problems. For example, if all your lines just stop, there will be a visible hard edge down your paper. An adjacent shading will overlap that edge and create a double layer of graphite, rendering it even more noticeable. The solution is tapered lines. First, varying the length of the lines helps to prevent a visible edge, but to banish it completely, feather the ends of all your lines so they fade to white. You do that by gently lifting your pencil clear at the end of each line. Adjacent shading now joins seamlessly. Tapered lines are invaluable for seamless shading. Shading without them creates unnatural edges and ugly dark marks. But when tapered lines are used, the result is splendid smooth shading and an enhanced sense of reality. As I mentioned, often some sections of a drawing are too expansive to shade in a single operation. This sky, for example. By tapering the lines and staggering the ends, I can shade in sections that seamlessly fuse into each other. This sky was also lightly blended to remove all traces of line, but within the tree and the old fence rails and the post, line played a major part, and all those were drawn in sections too. However, here values were allowed to differ between sections to suggest decay and age. Practice tapered lines. You need to. I could argue that every line you draw should be tapered, and at both ends. It's fundamentally important to drawing realistically. You need to practice until drawing tapered lines becomes second nature. There's nothing quick or uncontrolled about drawing tapered lines. It's not a quick flick. It's a very deliberate movement with a rhythm. Treat the line as being in 3 parts. I think of it as being like landing a light aircraft on the runway, taxiing along it, and then smoothly taking off again. Let's take those 3 steps. Step 1. Don't just place your pencil on your paper. Land the aircraft. Swing your pencil down to form the taper, which only need be very short. Step 2. Taxi along the runway. Draw your line just as you've always done. Take your time. There's no need to hurry. Step 3. Take off again. As you approach the end of a line, gradually decrease the pressure or weight until your pencil leaves the paper. Practice tapering in as many ways as you can. This is something to be learned. That is, you have to teach your brain what you want your hand to do. Magicians know all about this. We call it sleight of hand. They call it muscle memory, because they know only constant practice will perfect the movement. When you're reasonably comfortable with the start and the end tapers, draw straight lines, curved lines, long and short lines, every line you can think of. Don't make life difficult. Start by tapering only the beginning of the lines. And when you're happy with that, taper only the end. Now try both ends. And then teach yourself to do it in every direction. I cannot stress how important this skill is. It really is fundamental to good drawing. For example, it only needs one blunt end in hair to damage the overall sense of reality. Unless it's been cut, no hair ever just stops dead, and no gap between hairs ever begins or finishes with a square end. Now let's put it into practice. Remember that blunt ends double graphite problem? Let's try that again, but using tapered lines. The basic technique is this: line with a taper on the end, and a line coming back to meet it so that its end taper overlaps the other one's taper. Now let's try an area. To keep it simple, I'll just taper one end. I'll stagger the lengths too, so there's no obvious line down the paper. Now shade back to overlap tapers over tapers. The result, seamless shading. You've still drawn graphite over graphite, but a taper over a taper is a single solid line. Now let's take that a stage further and use multiple grades. More of an actual drawing situation. And this exercise will show you how successful your tapering is, or isn't. Draw a box about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters square. There are 4 stages. Stage 1. Begin with a 2B with some weight from the top right hand corner, or top left if you're left handed. Don't draw fast and lose control. There's never any need for speed. Now stop and look for errors. And the 3 most common are blunt ends, hooked ends. These occur when you try to return to the beginning without finishing the taper. Don't work too quickly. And zigzag shading. This is worse than blunt ends, because now you have blunt ends with double graphite. Stage 2. Shade halfway across to the bottom left again from the top right, and use an HB so you burnish the 2B. That will smooth it and remove any white holes. Step 3. Now shade 3/4 of the way across to the bottom left corner, again from the top right corner. This time using a 2H. Stage 4, the final stage. Now blend the result, but never blend with your fingers. The natural oil in your skin will leave a fingerprint that, like forensic dusting powder, graphite will indelibly stick to, and there's no fix for that. I use toilet tissue or kitchen paper wrapped around my finger, but toilet tissue gives a smoother finish, so I'll use that this time. Blend dark to light in tight circular arcs, and avoid the top right corner to preserve your darkest value. Blending will remove graphite, and use a light touch. You're redistributing graphite, not pushing it into the paper. When you've finished blending, if you left any blunt ends or hooked ends, they'll now be visible, because blending cannot remove them. In fact, blending will increase their visibility. So now you know the secret to seamless shading, and you can break any area down into easily manageable sections, such as this wood. It takes practice, but if there's one drawing skill you'll always be grateful that you've taught yourself, the tapered line is it.